Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Jai Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So first I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight. I know there was a big night last night. Maybe some of you or all of you were here to inaugurate the wonderful Damodar month, the month of Kartik. And it's very auspicious to serve Krishna, to do anything serving Krishna in this month. I forget, is it 1,000 times more powerful? But it's very good to continue your devotion and increase if possible. And I'd like to read a section of Srila Prabhupada's preface to the Nectar of Devotion. This Nectar of Devotion is a very important book. This is the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, originally written by Rupa Goswami, Lord Chaitanya's one of his main disciples. And he instructed him for 10 days in Prayag and gave him the whole essence of the process of devotional service, which Rupa Goswami then carefully formulated in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So I'm just going to read a little excerpt from the preface. This is quite famous. And here Srila Prabhupada says, the basic principle of the living condition is that we have a general propensity to love someone. No one can live without loving someone else. This propensity is present in every living being. Even an animal like a tiger has this loving propensity, at least in a dormant stage. And it is certainly present in human beings. The missing point, however, is where to repose our love so that everyone can become happy. Our loving propensity expands, just like a vibration of light or air expands, but we do not know where it ends. The Nectar of Devotion teaches us the science of loving every one of the living entities perfectly by the easy method of loving Krishna. We have failed to create peace and harmony in human society, even by such great attempts as the United Nations, because we do not know the right method. The method is very simple, but one has to understand it with a cool head. The Nectar of Devotion teaches all persons how to perform the simple and natural method of loving Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we learn how to love Krishna, then it is very easy to immediately and simultaneously love every living being. It is like pouring water on the root of a tree or supplying food to the stomach. The method of pouring water on the root of a tree or supplying foodstuffs to the stomach is universally scientific and practical, as every one of us has experienced. Everyone knows well that when we eat something, or in other words, when we put food in the stomach, the energy created by such action is immediately distributed throughout the whole body. Similarly, when we pour water on the root of a tree, the energy thus created is immediately distributed throughout the entirety of even the largest tree. It is not possible to water the tree part by part, nor is it possible to feed the different parts of the body separately. The Nectar of Devotion will teach us how to turn the one switch that will immediately brighten everything everywhere. One who does not know this method is missing the point of life. So, Srila Prabhupada gives us some very attractive words there in introducing his Nectar of Devotion. And when we analyze the process of devotional service, and we really read the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and even the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we see that it is a process of awakening the living entities, the soul's natural propensity for this expansive love by focusing our love on Krishna. Because we learn from the Bhagavad Gita and all the books that Krishna is actually present in everyone's heart, both as the super soul and as also the living entity, which is also his expansion. There's a very nice book called the Vedanta Sutta. Many of you have heard this book before. It's interesting that Prabhupada's name is Bhakti Vedanta. Vedanta is a compound of two words, Veda and Anta, which means the ultimate knowledge, or the end of all search for knowledge. So the Vedanta Sutras are little aphorisms. The little, Prabhupada called them codes. The first one is very famous, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. That's the whole instruction. Obviously it needs some explanation. So what is saying there, Vyasadeva is saying is, now therefore, having come to the human form of life, one should inquire into the absolute truth, Brahman. What is this Brahman? That's the next sutra. Janmad yasya yataha. Very succinct. Janman means birth or creation. Adi means etc. Creation, maintenance, and destruction. That's going on everywhere. Anywhere there's something material, you'll find those three stages. Whether it's our own body, this building, the earth, the universe, whatever. So Janmad yasya yataha. So we want to find the source of everything that exists, what or who maintains it, and who or what finally destroys it. And Lord Chaitanya, he declared and he preached that the natural commentation on this Brahma Sutra, because it needs commentary, is the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the Srimad Bhagavatam, of course, is focused on Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his devotees, and the process of devotional service. So the end of all knowledge, and Krishna declares this in the Bhagavad Gita, Mattak Paratanang Nanyat, there's nothing beyond me. He says, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo, Mattak Sarvam, everything has come from me, and I'm the source of everything. So the ultimate source, or the end of all knowledge, culminates in Krishna and in Bhakti to Krishna. That's why Prabhupada names it Bhakti Vedanta. The end of knowledge is Bhakti. And what is that Bhakti? It's not just love for Krishna, but it's loving exchange. You look up the word Bhakti in the Sanskrit dictionary, which I've done, because most of these 50 years that he mentioned, I've been working on Prabhupada's books, helping to put them out and proofreading them and so forth. So Bhakti is the exchange, and that's why we have called Bhakti Rasa. That's what Rasa, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, you see? The ocean of Bhakti Rasa. So what is this Bhakti Rasa? Well, one of the things Prabhupada teaches us at first, and Krishna teaches us, is that we are part and parcel of God, and we have his propensities to a minute degree. So if we want to find out something about Krishna, God, we can analyze our own personality and our own life. So we have these rasas. They're not bhakti rasas, they're not spiritual, but they're reflection. And they're really what makes life worth living. Here's the purest rasa in the material world. And pure means selfless. This bhakti rasa is based on love. Now, where do you find this selfless love most purely displayed in the material world? In this, who can say? A mother's love for a child. Think of the newborn child, a few months old maybe, and he doesn't know what's what. All he knows is that there's this great source of food and safety and love, and it's his mother. On her side, she's simply happy if the child is safe and healthy and well fed, right? And he's comfortable. And if the child smiles, usually a toothless smile at the beginning there, the mother's day is made, isn't it? Those of you who are mothers. So this is the purest. It's completely selfless. This is the key. The mother is taking her pleasure, experiencing this bhakti, this rasa, not bhakti rasa, but this rasa of love, because it's completely dependent on the pleasure of the child, the beloved. If the beloved is happy, then I'm happy. Right? That's the thing. Now, when we grow a little older, our rasa is not so pure. Right? We may have a friend. I remember the mantra we had is, I'll be your friend if you'll be mine. Right? In other words, it's conditional. Isn't it? So there is the perversion of this pure rasa is what we call sense gratification. Is that I want this, I want this. I am trying to imitate Krishna. Krishna is the ultimate enjoyer. In fact, there's another sutra, the Vedanta Sutra. Anandamayo Bhyasat. Anandamayo Bhyasat. Which means that God, or Krishna, is always full of ananda. And how can we tell? By his activities. Abhyasa. Abhyasa means a practice or an activity, right? You study the Leela of Krishna. Whether he's fighting the demons, he's lifting Govardhan Hill, and don't miss Govardhan Puja, by the way. When is it? The 12th? When are we celebrating?
Next Sunday.
Yeah. So that's a perfect example. You can just analyze this pastime, which is very appropriate because this whole temple is New Govardhan, obviously. So how did that pastime unfold? Now we're going to also get to Damodar Leela, which is another manifestation. You can see in all of Krishna's pastimes, you study his Gokula pastimes, which are the essence, right? That's what's going on in the spiritual world, and that he had a replica in Vrindavan 5,000 years ago to show. And that is that he's like a great maestro. He's organizing in such a way that to draw out these most intense emotions from his friends, his mothers, parents, and of course the gopis, everyone. But and what's the end of the whole thing? The end of the whole thing is that they appreciate Krishna that much more. You can this Govardhan Leela, right? What did he do? He lifted the hill, right? We know that, and he protected his friends and the cows for 7 days and nights, right? So during that time, there's all kinds of exchanges going on with Krishna under that hill. They're just to see him for that long. Don't forget when the pastime is that Krishna leaves home with his friends. And the cows, right? And he's gone the whole day. The gopis are pining at home. Mother Yashoda is worrying, is he okay? Is he hurting his foot? He doesn't have any shoes. And, so much anxiety on her. And then when is he coming back? And so when it starts to get near the end of the day, they go up to the top of the houses. There's a little arrangement on the top so they can all watch and see far away. And, oh, look, it looks like a little cloud of dust. That must be the cows. Can you hear the flute? Oh, maybe it's at the flute. And so there's this whole rasa of him coming back. So it's very, they don't see him for hours during the day. But here, for the entire time, for the whole 7 days, 24 hours a day, nobody was sleeping. They're looking at Krishna. They're wondering how kind he is to hold that hill up, how wonderful, amazing it is. He just got the finger. They have the paintings where Mother Yashoda, come on, guys, can you please help him? And they're holding up with the sticks, right, pretending to hold him. So, but the whole thing is just a festival of exchange with Krishna. And meanwhile, they're just so thankful he's protected them from this, this rain. He protected them from the rain, from the fire, from Agasura, from Trinavarta. All these demons came, and Krishna miraculously killed them. They don't know he's God. They just know that he's their, maybe he's a demigod or something, but they love him, unquestionably. And he loves them, and he shows it periodically like that. So that's what's going on in Gokula. So what is our life like? Make sure the door is closed. Yeah, they don't know. And that is that we have various relationships that we experience in our lifetime. And we are showing love, you know, but there's also this tinge of ego. The whole thing in the spiritual world, there's no ego there of the servants of Krishna. He is simply being served. They're pleased that he's served. As Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma jnanavatam. This is right near the beginning of Nectar of Devotion. It's kind of the essential verse describing what Bhakti Rasa is, what Krishna consciousness is. Anya means other. Abhilashita means desire. Shunya means zero, devoid of. Devoid of any other kind of desire. And he gives a little list, the summary. Jnana, karma, dhyanavritam. Avritam is a very important word. It means covered. Because our natural love for Krishna is covered by these egoistic desires. And they just bring suffering. Because they can never be fully fulfilled. So what are they? First is jnana. Jnana means desire for liberation. Desire for, I am going to become free from birth, old age, disease, and death. By controlling these senses. I know the senses are pulling me away. So by force of, you know, austerity, very few can do this. But there are some. And now they rise up to Brahman. This is the white light, undifferentiated, energy, spiritual energy. And there's no birth, there's no death, there's no old age. I'm free. I'll just exist here in this white light forever. But nobody can stay there. You know why? It's boring. It's really boring eventually. And because we're naturally living in, we're persons. We're eternal persons. To strip away our personality, no senses, no mind, no thoughts, no others, no nothing, is artificial. At first it seems, oh, I'm free, no more death, no old age, let me just cool it out. Like a sensory deprivation chamber? I've never been in one, but I've heard, you know, at first, oh, perfect, you know, the temperature and everything, let me just relax. But then you realize, oh my God, I got to go back and cook dinner for my kids, or I got to go to work, or and you get, you know, just ring a bell, let me out of here, right? So that's what happens to these Brahmavadis. They become dissatisfied, they come down. There's a verse in the Bhagavatam, I don't need to chant the Sanskrit for you. Aruha kuchena param padandata patantyado anadvida yushmarangaya, because they're averse to serving your lotus feet. You can be fully satisfied forever serving Krishna's lotus feet and being part of the entourage in Goloka Vrindavan and serving him in all kinds of ways. That's our eternal home, which we've unfortunately left. So the whole process of bhakti is reawakening what's naturally there. And Prabhupada, in this wonderful little section of the preface, he's describing, and in this material world, when we find someone like that, and Srila Prabhupada was a perfect example, what did he actually do when he came? He showed that he was completely selfless. He didn't come, you know, as some kind of an enterprise. I'm talking about getting on that Jaladuta boat with $7 at age 69, not in the greatest of health, you know, with really knowing no one at the other end. Can you imagine? Could you fly to India with $7, not knowing where you're going to land really, or having no connections? Nobody's going to do it, right? You all have, you know, connections. So he was very, very courageous. And, you know, he had 2 heart attacks on the way, but he didn't give up. When he came, it was interesting. He was planning to stay for 2 months. You know, that was the so he comes, but he found some interest, a little interest. Anyway, it's a long story, beautifully told in the Lilamrita, or there's a book, I don't know if it's available here, but just Prabhupada. It's a condensation of the big Prabhupada Lilamrita by Satsu Das Goswami. But the wonderful thing is that Prabhupada cared. He accepted the assignment from his Gurudev, from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Preach in English, go to the West and preach, you know. He had already sent some of his disciples to England. They tried, but they came back. They couldn't do anything. And he had Lord Chaitanya's famous prediction. Priti Bitti Achayati Nagaradi Gram Sarvata Pachahorbe Murdanam. This is in the book called Chaitanya Bhagavat, which is a companion book to Chaitanya Charitamrita, biography of Lord Chaitanya. Wonderful. What do I got? Bugs? Right where? This. Oh, wait. There it is. Okay. All right. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Maybe someone I offended in my last life. Or an old bhakta who didn't make it through the course. Okay. So, just to contemplate what Prabhupada did, he did it all for us. He did it all for we who didn't know anything about bhakti, who were suffering. I mean, I was raised as an atheist, total atheist, communist, and my whole focus was on the war in Vietnam when I was growing up. This is in the 60s. I turned 18 in 1965, and I wasn't going to go into the army, so I was a draft resistor, all these different things. But there was absolutely nothing spiritual in my life, But anyway, it's a long story how by Krishna really putting me through some difficulty. I was in the hospital for a whole month with hepatitis, and it was just the low point. But what was great about it is when I came out, I needed a way to rehabilitate my health. And at that time, yoga was becoming popular. Ravi Shankar, first with the music, I was attracted, and then George Harrison, and then the East and everything. So I said, let me try this yoga stuff, So I immediately became a vegetarian, and I found the yoga studio. And who was at the yoga studio? And maybe some of you know Amalabhakta Maharaj in LA. I don't know if you know. He's made so many recordings, you probably heard some of them. He later became a devotee after I did. But he first introduced me to a few mantras and things. Anyway, I eventually came to the temple in Brooklyn. And they loved to chant Hare Krishna. By that time I was chanting Hare Krishna, but every other yoga studio, they had a little bit of it, but then you had to stop, So I found the place where the more you chant, the more they like you. And so I said, okay, this is where I want to be. But it was not the Nectar of Devotion, but the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. That book is also available in the store. This is a condensation of all Lord Chaitanya's teaching from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Very important book. So the point is that Srila Prabhupada came to give us what he knew was the remedy for the disease of birth and death and things that are troubling us. In other words, it really is a panacea because it cures the disease of material life itself. We have to recognize, this is one of the first things you learn from the Bhagavad Gita, that we are spirit soul and that we are entrapped, if you will, in a body, in a physical body. Now, those of us who are in human bodies are very fortunate, especially if we come in touch with the science and someone who's practicing it. Because the only way out of the situation is that for millions of births, by Krishna's mercy, we don't remember them. If we remembered them, we'd all have a massive case of PTSD. We couldn't even function. Can you imagine? I don't even want to go into it. But anyway, we've forgotten them all. But we've been through that. And then that means we're going to have another one. Nobody dies. I have this little mantra that I cooked up based on the Bhagavad Gita. Every body dies, right? We're all in a body. The body eventually is just a machine and dies. So every body dies, nobody dies. Wake up, and open your eyes. You're not that body, you're a pure spirit soul. Chant the holy name and attain life's goal. That's kind of Krishna consciousness in a nutshell. So, but it's not so easy to wake up. We're so used to identifying with the body. But that's the first lesson of Bhagavad Gita. When Krishna starts speaking to Arjuna as a guru, not as a friend, he says, Ashocana vashocastram, you're lamenting for those not worthy of grief. You're speaking like a pundit, but you're not really learned. Because Arjuna was quoting all this stuff from the Vedas, how, if I kill all these men, the women will be unprotected, they'll be Varnasankara, the whole place will be overrun. I'll be creating great sin, I'll just go off to the forest and beg. But he didn't feel right doing it. He wouldn't, because he knew Krishna was on the chariot, that he's really the Supreme Person, and he wanted him to fight. So he surrenders as a shishya, as a disciple. No longer speaking friends, because Prabhupada said, friend to friend, you can go on forever and never come to a conclusion. So he said, okay, you tell me what's right. I am dharma samudacheta. My consciousness is bewildered about what's the right thing to do. So you yakshreya eksan nishtitam bruhitam. Please tell me for certain what is best for me and everyone else. Shreya means that which is good for you and also good for whoever you come in contact with. This is what we should strive for. So the first thing that he tells them is that you're lamenting for all these people who will die, first and foremost, your titular grandfather, who took the role of a grandfather, Bhishma Dev, who loved the Pandavas, and of course his teacher, Dronacharya. But there were many others there. He had so many relationships and friends, and he said, how can I kill them? Suppose I get this kingdom. He's thinking in material terms. All right, we won the kingdom. It'll be soaked with the blood of those who I love. What kind of victory is that? You know? So it didn't make sense. It didn't compute materially. So anyway, Krishna starts speaking to him about the difference between the soul and the body. And that we are transmigrating through the body, even in this lifetime. I remember when I first read that verse, it was so wonderful, because anyone can understand it. The children, you know. Dehi nosmin yatha dehi kaumaram yovanam jara tata dehantara prapti dhirastrata namuyati. Even in this one lifetime, we're transmigrating. All of us have been 5 years old, 10 years old. You can probably remember some of the things from back then, the highlights, right? So what was different? Well, the body was certainly different. The mind was certainly different. Well, what's the same? You are the same. The conscious living entity, right? Which we're riding along in this body, which is like a vehicle, and the body is constantly changing. Every day it's changing. We don't realize it, but after a while, it's obvious it's changing. So it change, and eventually, like all machines, it's going to break down, either naturally or some accident or disease, war, whatever it is. We will become dysfunctional, right? Then what? Then you die. But you are the soul. You don't die. Nijayate mriyate va kadachan. This key verse, text 20 in chapter 2. So you don't die, you get another body. And I was studying a little bit before class, and I was referencing a few verses near the beginning of chapter 8 of the Bhagavad Gita. And it comprises the whole science of transmigration and going back to the Godhead. So Krishna says, he says it right at the beginning there, near the beginning. Antakale tamameva smadan mukba kalevanam yakpriyati samadbhavam yasti nat yatra sangshaya. There's no doubt about it. If at the end of this body, antakale means the end time of death, you can remember me, you'll come to me. You see? No more birth, no more death. And then he gives a general principle. Yang vapi smarang bhavam chadit jante kalevanam tam tamevaiti konteya sadatad bhava bhavata. So what yam means whatever is the most prominent thought in your mind when you leave the body, that determines your next life. Now, if you spend your whole life, playing video games and doing, you can imagine what you're going to think of. Don't imagine what you're going to think. So the point is, we hold our destiny in our own hands. So we need training. How to train the mind so that we can remember Krishna at the end and go back to Godhead, back home. Back to Godhead. Very important. Prabhupada added that. Back home, back to Godhead. That's where we all belong. That's where we came from. So what's the advantage? No more birth, no more death. That's just the negative side. It's full of ananda. Krishna is Satchit Ananda. He himself, his whole form, everything, and the whole world there. And we learn from Brahma Samhita. Here a little, the description. That's so wonderful about these books, is details. How can you love someone if you don't know the details? Oh, he's so handsome. Well, how is he so handsome? Well, okay, beautiful. This, and then you get the deities, the paintings, the descriptions. Then you can develop love for Krishna. And because we're all part and parcel of Krishna, that love can expand to everybody. Meaning that you make your life successful, as Krishna says. He's walking with his friends in the forest, and he sees the trees. Right? In Vrindavan. This is in the last part of, I forget the number in the chapter, but it's in Vrindavan pastime. And actually it's the chapter where he steals the clothes of the gopis, and then there's a break, and then it says later on, he's wandering with his friends in the forest, and he's praising the trees. Just see how generous these trees and how tolerant the trees are. They never complain. Some forester will come and cut them down, or, there'll be freezing cold. And they never complain. They're very tolerant. That's why it's Tador Api Sahishnuna. In that famous verse in the Shikshastika, one should try to be more tolerant than the tree. It's not so easy. Hare Krishna. So anyway, and they give their fruits, they give their flowers, very generous. So then he comes up with this verse, which is for all of us. He says, Etavad janmasapalyam dehi nami hidehishu prana artha dhiya vacha shreya acharanam sada. That, I've been reading the Bhagavatam for so many years. There's certain verses that begin with this word, etavad. And when you find a verse like that, you should study it because it kind of sums up a whole. They're usually very important verses. So here's a very important verse. Etavad janma sapalyam. Janma sapalyam is human beings can make their lives fruitful. Sapalyam. Palyam means a fruit. Dehinami hidehishu. Fruitful for whom? For all the embodied souls. Ourselves and everyone we contact. By prana, artha, dhiya, vacha. With our life force, with our wealth, with our intelligence and our words, doing good for others, doing good for every living entity, but mostly human beings. Dehinami hideshu. Shreya achananam sada. Here's this word shreya again. Now what is that shreya? That shreya is to teach people about Krishna consciousness. To become Krishna conscious, you see, and then to teach others. And that's so pleasing to Krishna that he makes you more ecstatic in doing that. We have some very wonderful devotees, I'm not going to embarrass them by mentioning their names here, who go out every day and perform the austerity of selling Srila Prabhupada's books, mostly in Balboa Park and the zoo and other places and universities. And their classes are so wonderful because they tell these stories about people they meet. Of course, many people will say, "Oh, are you kidding? I couldn't be less interested." There's a lot of no's, and that's the austerity, right? But they don't get discouraged. They still try. And then there's people who respond. Sometimes after speaking to the devotees, seeing the books, they cry. So there's so many amazing things, because there's so much stress out there. How can you not be stressed? This world seems to be falling apart in everything. The climate is going crazy. We have 2 wars going on. The ocean is ready to rise. Antarctica is melting. I mean, I hate to tell you that. Antarctica is melting. The Arctic, we know, is almost melted already, but that water is going to come rising here. And so many dangers. Who expected this thing going on in Hawaii? And then we had a little mini hurricane up here. You remember where they scared us? It was a joke, but it's no joke. They just the Acapulco, when it leveled Acapulco. It's just a few hundred, 100 miles south of here. So the point is, it's very tenuous, this material life. So we should do everything we can to become as advanced as possible in Krishna consciousness. And the basic principle is chant this mantra. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. Chant the mantra, learn the science, associate with the devotees, come to the temple. Just press the right buttons on your computer. We have classes 3 nights a week, 7:15, Bhagavad Gita. Please join us if you can, time. And if you don't, they're all recorded on there. In other words, the technology is a bondage, but there's a million things on there you don't want to see. But we've also got so many wonderful sites on there. Bhakti Brinda Govinda Swami kirtans. People travel thousands of miles for those kirtans. You just press the right buttons. So the point is that we have to make the right decision so that we are progressively becoming purified of the false ego, the false sense of self built around bodily identity, and rather identify ourselves as pure souls, and then learn the art and science of Krishna consciousness. It's very simple. It's free. Yes, there are restrictions. They may be difficult at first, but you can get spiritual strength by chanting this mantra. You can become peaceful. You can have an oasis of freedom from anxiety by regularly chanting this mantra. I mean, I've experienced it over the years. We're living in the same world everyone else is, but it's possible to transcend it if you become serious about Krishna consciousness. So back to this theme here about our vibrations of love. So the idea is that what did Lord Chaitanya do? What did he show? And his sincere followers is that they really showed that they loved every living entity. That especially human beings who have a chance to absorb this science, by making it available. Prabhupada came to America against all odds. You know, I lived in New York. I was there practically the same time, although I didn't unfortunately contact him until later. But New York City as a place to, you know, start a yoga system based on renunciation. But he had this great faith in the mantra. And it was his staunch chanting of the holy name. And then Krishna made an arrangement where someone wanted to make a record of him, you know, after like a few months at the 26th 2nd Avenue. Because Allen Ginsberg had come back from India, he was world famous, and he was chanting Hare Krishna, so he gave him some fame. And then the George Harrison connection, my God, it's just, you know, even today everyone knows his name. So Krishna makes these arrangements. And he'll make arrangements for us also, that we can also take this process. But it means, you know, studying Srila Prabhupada's books, the Bhagavad Gita is basic. Some of these other books that we put together, I had a hand in, like this Science of Self-Realization, Journey of Self-Discovery. They are designed for people who don't know a lot about Krishna consciousness. We generally took them from lectures Prabhupada gave, public lectures, and we edited them up. You know, and Prabhupada, you know, he knew his audience, and when he's speaking only with devotees, then he'll do one thing, but with his new people, and you know, so there's like introductory books. That's what I'm saying. So please, you know, make it your business to investigate this science if you're new to it, and if you're not new, then let's get serious. Because we don't know how much time really we have, not just to live, but to have a situation where we can have a nice temple and the beautiful deities and this opportunity to formulate our consciousness by chanting and hearing and reading and associating with devotees. So that's my simple message to you tonight. It's 6:40. We have some time. If there are any questions or comments or any of these points. Otherwise, maybe I'll share a few poems with you, and we'll go from there. Yes, Krishna Katha. Prabhu.
HG Dravida Prabhu, thank you for your wonderful, compact, excellent summary of our philosophy. It's always so enlivening. And because I look around, I see a lot of continuing congregation. Uh-huh. And it's always good to get the next step told to us by a learned scholar. So it's my understanding that we misused our independence, which brought us here. So elaborate how we also continue to do that every day. And you know what I'm saying, right? We sometimes forget Krishna even now. Not necessarily right now because we're here.
It's kind of hard.
Yeah, it's very difficult. But I know that I do. And so that I have to, I know Prabhupada said we should wake up every morning and beat our head with shoes so that we don't forget Krishna. And that's an extreme example. But
that was actually coming from Bhakti Siddhanta.
That came from his spiritual master, yes. So if you could elaborate how we can turn ourselves towards Krishna rather than turning our back on Krishna on a daily basis, like with the media, like with YouTube, like what I use because I live far away. I'm constantly on YouTube watching devotional videos.
It's interesting because one of the main questions that we have is, and we all have, how did we get here? You know, if Krishna says, that is my supreme abode, Goloka Vrindavan. Once going there, you never come back. So what is the real difference? If we were there already, how did we come here? So I'm not going to get into that whole issue, but Prabhupada explained. And there are verses in Bhagavatam. Here's one of my favorites, because what is the underlying, you know, we may not feel it all the time, but the underlying reality of material life, you know, is fear, is anxiety. Because after all, you know, these bodies are very delicate. Our situation we have, okay, maybe we got an apartment, we got a job, okay, but everyone knows that we can lose that, or suddenly the price of the apartment can double, triple, and I can't afford it, right? Isn't that going on also? Inflation. So this is a world, the material world itself is a world of anxiety. So this is a verse in the 11th canto describing that, and it talks about exactly how we get here. Bhayam. Bhayam is fear. Prabhupada's name. Abhay Charanadavinda. You see, at the fearless, the lotus feet of Krishna. That's where fearlessness is, if there is any. So he says, Bhayam Vidya Banaveshataksyad Ishadapetasi Viparhyo Asmriti Tanmayato Buddha Abhajetam Bhaktyakayesham Guru Devatama. So he's giving the description of the disease, how we got into this situation, and also the prescription for getting free of the disease, of the problem. So he says, Bhayam Vidya. Vidya means the world of duality, this world. Vidya Abhinaveshatak. Abhinaveshatak means we became absorbed in thinking of it. But in order to do that, we had to turn away from Krishna. That's the next line. Bhayam Vidya Abhinaveshatak said, Ishat apetasya. Isha is the Lord. He's the controller, the absolute controller, Parameshwar. Apetasya means turning away and becoming absorbed in the dualities of this world. You see? Apetasya. Viparhyo asmati. Viparhya means everything is backwards. Instead of being the humble servant of Krishna, we become his competitor. You know, instead of being full of love and devotion, we become full of anxiety and fear. So, viparya asmriti, we forgot it all. Why? Tanmayato, by the influence of Krishna's Maya energy. She's there, the bewildering energy. Yoga Maya expands, so if we want to forget him, okay, she'll help us forget him. So then, Buddha, one has to be intelligent. Now here comes the remedy. Abhajetam, one has to, again, worship that same person, turn back toward Krishna. This is what our attention, everything is our attention. Where do you put your attention, your hopes, your meditation? Abhajetam, tanmayat Buddha abhajetam bhaktyakayesham. How? By one-pointed bhakti. Now how to develop that or practice that? That's from the acharyas, from the great souls. Guru Devatatma, and he emphasizes the guru, the spiritual master, the preceptor, the intermediary. Krishna appears in the life of the sincere seeker in the form of the guru. He's in as a super soul. He's there, but we don't want to listen to him. We may get a little, beatings of conscience. That's the super soul. I shouldn't do it. No, I'm going to do it anyway. You ignore. So he comes externally as the guru, as a pure devotee, and as the books, Bhagavad Gita. That's Krishna is appearing through his book. So Guru Devatatma, by worshipping the guru, by surrendering just as Arjuna did, and taking instruction so that we can transform our lives. Because we are so conditioned, many, many millions of births of turning away from Krishna. But now we understand the importance of turning back, how to do it. That Prabhupada made that possible by writing the books, building the movement. So that's the idea. We're reenacting the fall of the jiva every day. As soon as we willfully forget Krishna, we may not say, okay, now's the time. It's 3 o'clock. Let me forget Krishna. No, it's not like that. It's just that we become enamored of something else, or we become absorbed in some other thing going on, and meanwhile we forgot Krishna. But Krishna consciousness means to reduce the time when we forget Krishna and become accustomed to remembering him. Not just remembering, but to glorify and to serve and to start to feel a little bit of that bhakti rasa. That's all attractive. And we saw with Srila Prabhupada. How is it possible? I've been chanting this mantra for 50 years. Now I'm not a pure devotee, so I messed up, but I'm still chanting, and it is still giving me so much. How should I say? A place where you don't, you're not absorbed in the material energy and the whole thing, and it's kind of it's a hint of the spiritual atmosphere, at least when we chant with some concentration. And then come these special events, like that wonderful flower festivals, those flower festivals we had, these Govardhan Puja, Rath Yatra, unfortunately we couldn't do one this year here, but the ones in LA are still going on, So the festivals, and they provide an oasis where you get some sense of what is reality, and not all of this anxiety and this craziness and material energy. So the point is that we have to take advantage of the facilities that have been made available. And so much of it is free. We're not, have to buy it. We ask for donations, but the most valuable thing is completely free. Prabhupada made the point, take it, Hare Krishna mantra. Where's the cost? Where's the pain? Just take it. And if you try it, I'm telling you, I am in touch with the Prison Ministry. Have you been reading that book? You know, there's a whole prison ministry where we sell books. Well, it was pioneered by one alumnus here. What was it? Nimai's mother? Balaram, tell me out. Nimai's mother. He forgot too. Shamapriya. Thank you so much. Yeah, Shamapriya, wonderful devotee who really sacrificed so much. She eventually became ill and passed some years ago. But to pioneer and to send books to the prisoners and to have correspondence to write to them, you know, and there's incredible stories of the transformation that take place because they realize, you know, they're in prison, but we're also in prison. What does Durga mean? Who can say? Come on. Yes, Durga. What's the meaning? Yeah, she's the goddess in charge of the material energy. But what is the actual meaning of the word Durga? Can't go. It's a word for prison. It's a word for prison. As long as we remain prisoners of our own conditioned mind and intelligence, you know, which are our agents, we're not going anywhere except to another body here. And if we simply are members of this, you know, current generation, we're practically assured of getting a lower birth. If you just go with the flow, don't go with the flow. The flow is, you know, the river about to run you down into hell. Go against the grain, you know. Krishna will help you. So the idea is that we can train the mind if we have the right guidance and if we accept the process. You know, every day I take a walk. I'll tell you, I take a walk up Cass Avenue, 6:30. Now, before we're still on daylight savings, you know, so it's very dark in the morning at 6:30. It actually the sun rises while I'm walking, but we're going to get some more light in the morning in a few weeks. So we'll finally get rid of this daylight savings. So I'm walking up there, and they just opened a new gym. It's called the Yard Gym, I think. Yeah, from Australia or something. And it's not your ordinary, you know, fitness thing where there's just a bunch of stationary bikes. You go in there and, you know, no. They have trainers in there and everything, you know, and it's a big deal. So, you know, I walk by, and of course on weekends they're closed, but in the morning they're 6:30. People are going in there before work, and it's all young, you know, men and women, svelte, you know, ready to get even more. And they got the heavy, you know, music going, rhythmic music going in there, you know. And I sometimes glance in there and they're going through some, and it's like exactly the opposite of what's going on here. In other words, this is all to get more and more into the bodily concept of life. Yeah, maybe I'll meet someone who, you know, I can pair up with. But I'm just chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. I'm getting exercise, but I'm more important. I'm chanting my rounds. So that's if you don't do anything, you'll get attracted to that. We're so fortunate. You took the time, you know, Sunday night to come here. You know, most of you have been here before. And why? Because you know that it's invaluable to see the beautiful form of the Lord. Just see these decorations. I think some of them from last night. You know, they're wonderful. And I have some pictures. If you really want to get some far out pictures, I went up on the altar in 2000. I've been here so long, and to take pictures of the deities. I have some very wonderful pictures of Radha Giridhari. If you're interested, just write to me, Dravida 108. And I'll send you these. And when I look at these pictures, sometimes I chant my rounds. I have a slideshow going on my iPad. And the thought that comes to mind, how can you help loving them? How can you possibly help loving them? You know? I mean, I have Radha and Giridhari, they're looking right at you, and with so much mercy. You know what this is? Does everyone know what this mudra is? Radharani's, check it out the next time you see. She's like this, right? This is called Abhay Dan Mudra. Mudra, you know, we use them all the time. Mother, you know, like this, or, oh, are you kidding me? Oh, jeez. But this is, don't fear. Be fearless. You just love us. You chant our names. Everything's going to be okay. Okay? Don't we need that? We need that. So we should take advantage of everything that Prabhupada worked so hard to give. The books, the association, the Hare Krishna mantra, the prasadam, the deities, the Bhagavad Gita class, has been going on for 30 years. You can just get on at 7:15 or check it out, We're in the second chapter still. We just finished 18 and we're going back now to the second chapter. So anyway, it's that is the, turning away from Krishna means forgetting him. And we willfully do that. We're so habituated to do that, that unless we get rid of that habituation, which is the bad conditioning, by the effort of accepting the austerities of Krishna consciousness, the do's and the don'ts, then we'll remain victimized by the material energy. But the good news is, any little advancement you make in Krishna consciousness, even coming once to a Sunday feast lecture, it's never lost. Nehabhukamana shosti pratyavayam vidyate svopam apasiddhamasa trayate mahato bayat. In this endeavor of Krishna consciousness, there's no loss and diminution, and even a little advancement on this path, a little advancement, suopam, will protect you from the greatest danger, the most fearful danger, which is losing the human form of life. If we act like animals, we don't have any assets in Krishna consciousness, like millions and millions of people, then in this age especially, all the meat eating and stuff going on, you can easily lose the human form of life. And what's the value of the human form of life? Labdva sudurlamamidam bahusambhavante manusham artadam api hadira turnam yatedana patedana mityava nikshaya sayabhashaya kalasarvatakshat. You have attained this human form after many, many births. Bahusambhavante, manusham, the human form. Artadam. In this form alone, you can achieve the ultimate goal of life. Sva-arta, this goal of the soul, which is to break free of the bounds of birth and death and go back to guided. Anityam, but like all forms, it's temporary. Anityam, so one has to be dhira, thoughtful. And what's the conclusion after you're thoughtful? Without wasting any time, turnam, immediately. Yateta, strive. As long as you're still alive, for what? Nikshayasa. Here's that word shreyas again. But the preface nik means the ultimate good. Because after all, in all those other forms you had, you experienced all varieties of sense gratification. Right? You thought you were getting pleasure here and there, here and there. And what was happening? Another birth, another death, another birth, another death. So forget about that and strive for the ultimate good by Bhakti Yoga. You had a question?
Hare Krishna, if you have time for one
go ahead.
question. Bhavani.
Bhavani?
Yeah, I thought you asked me my name. So the other side of the question is, if a bhakta is way too...
Try to speak into the mic, because everyone's trying to hear.
If a bhakta is way too involved in Krishna Bhakti and Krishna Viraha is making them unable to function in the worldly matters, what would you recommend them?
Okay, I think the question is, if someone is trying to take up bhakti but they can't function in the world.
Yeah, Krishna Viraha exhausts them so much that they are unable to function in the worldly matters. How would they live the rest of their life?
So the question is, someone is interested in taking up devotional service, but they're by doing that,
someone being devotional, and the Krishna Viraha is occupying them so much that they can't function.
Oh, Krishna, with separation from Krishna. Well, we have to be able to keep our body and soul together. And if they're in that kind of state and they can't get out of it, then to try to make it to Vrindavan, ready, prepared to go back to Godhead. Then you have to be able to do both. So it's the kind of question where we have to find out the individual situation and try to help them. They need to be able to contact other devotees who can help them to at least come to the point of keeping body and soul together. Because otherwise it's a situation where, okay, it reminds me of the Pandavas. When Krishna left and they all said, all right, that's it. He gave up the kingdom, threw down, took off, just started walking to the north. And Draupadi and Kunti were also there walking, and they dropped out, and we're not on that level where we can do that. In other words, they gave up any attempt to even keep body and soul together, and they just, all departed, literally, because Krishna had departed. So that we're not on that level. So one has to live simply, but still live. You have to do that. And therefore, it has to be a circle of friends or people who know that person, who can encourage them and somehow arrange so that they can, keep body and soul together. Okay. All right, there's only 2 minutes, so I'll end with this one poem, if that's okay. And that is the first verse of the Shikshastika. Cheto darpanamarjanam bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam. Shreya kaidabachandikavatadanam vidhyavatu jivanam. Anandam buddhivardhanam pratibadam purnamita swadanam. Sarvatmasnapadam padam vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. All glories to the chanting of Shri Krishna's holy names, which easily extinguishes samsara's blazing flames by polishing the lust-encrusted mirror of the heart. That chanting is the waxing moon that knows the secret art of causing the white lotus of good fortune to unfurl its petals far and wide throughout this bleak and blighted world. Of transcendental knowledge, which will take us to life's goal. The chanting of the name of Krishna is the life and soul. The ocean of ecstatic bliss floods far beyond its bounds, wherever Krishna's merciful and mystic name resounds. Indeed, whenever Krishna's names are sung in congregation, at every step one tastes a joy that knows no limitation. So hear with great attention as I earnestly request, please chant Shri Krishna's holy name and be supremely blessed. The soothing nectar of the name will bathe your consciousness. Bestow pure love for Krishna and eradicate distress. This is actually the basis of the whole movement, of the Hare Krishna movement. So, if you want to, I was able to sing that. It wasn't my own plan. In Mayapur in 2005, if you want to see it, just in YouTube, you search for Dravida space Mayapur, and then you can see that. And if you're really interested in the poem, I can send it to you. Dravida108@gmail. You just send me an email. I'll send you the Bible. And don't forget, 7:15, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Bhagavad Gita class. Hare Krishna. All glories to the Prabhupada. Now I'll have another kirtan.